Happy New Year, folks. Good talking to you. On the flip side, happy 2023. Let's talk Tesla production and delivery report. We just, well, not just, but we've been trying to digest this pretty much all morning. So I said I was going to go live to give my thoughts on this, and here I am. By the way, let me know if my audio is coming in clear in the chat. A little bit of an impromptu live stream, I know, so bear with me there. So the nuts and bolts of it are this. Production for quarter four was 439,701. Again, in a vacuum, this is good. There was questions about whether or not Tesla would slow down production quarter four. I think it's good to see production as high as it was, but deliveries are lagging and by quite a bit, right? We talked about demand smoothing here in a second. We'll pull up Martin Viecha's tweet, but productions were only 405,278. Now, this is going to give, Chadwick, how's it going, Vern? This is going to give questions. This is going to arise questions, as I think intellectually, honestly, it should, about demand. Is it just about the curve of these deliveries? Is it that Tesla's producing these and they couldn't find the buyers? And then by the time they realize that, then they released the extra $3,500 for the total of $7,500 in the last couple of weeks. Was it too little, too late by then? Here's kind of my 2 cents about this. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. If Tesla put their pedal to the metal in the last 2.5 weeks to push with the $7,500 credit and the S and X on the last couple of days, in fact, I think the last day almost for the S and X discount, my question is really, had they have not done that, we're probably under 400,000, right? So, and we saw the speed of which these Teslas started to get picked up once a discount was announced. And so it seems like to me, it was probably the middle portion of that quarter, the middle to, let's say, if it's a basketball game, maybe it's the second and third quarter of the quarter. Maybe that's not a good analogy. It's the second period of the hockey game that I'm kind of looking at in the quarter and saying, okay, obviously demand really slowed down there, and maybe they didn't put the discount out as soon as they should have. Now, the other side of this is, okay, well, forget about it. It's not really about the discount. It's about Tesla couldn't deliver these vehicles. Now, one thing that I noticed that they didn't do in this report that they had done last time was, in this report, there's no mention of these cars have been ordered and they're just on the way. If you guys remember, last quarter three in the press, remember, this is from October, they said specifically this: these cars have been ordered and will be delivered to customers upon arrival to their destination. Now, maybe Tesla doesn't feel like they need to clarify this every quarter because they've clarified that, but maybe that's just rose-colored glass thinking, because we got to be careful. I think everyone's assuming all of these cars have been ordered, it just haven't been delivered, where they don't explicitly say that this quarter. So I'd be curious to get what your guys' thoughts are on this as well. Chadwick says 441,000 cars sold if you count those being delivered. I mean, yes, if we assume the same things that Tesla said last press release, can we? I don't know. Maybe we can, maybe we don't. I mean, it's not really for me to judge. Angus, how's it going? John says, will they make up for delivery revenue in other areas? Maybe, but remember, 20,000 cars. So, okay, so we have to weigh this, right? And I've pulled up Gary Black's tweet here. Tesla fourth quarter deliveries of 405.3 thousand versus my expectations of 420, and the Bloomberg estimate of 420.8. So the whisper is about 20,000 or about 15,000 less. That's about $150 million of top line revenue off for this quarter. I reckon what we're going to see this week is a little bit of revising of models for this quarter, namely revenue coming down. I'm not sure about margin enhancements that they're gonna update. I don't think too much. But yes, there's going to be some revisions that are going to be made here, it seems like. Exploration says tomorrow's going to stuck. I'd be curious to see what you guys think about tomorrow. Let me know in the chat. I generally agree. I think essentially I look at it black and white from at least the street perspective, and they're going to go, we expected 418 or 420. We got 405. We don't care. Like, because remember last time, I mean, history, I guess, kind of would tell us how the street's going to react. Remember, the street's why we care, because the street essentially dictates what's going to happen with the stock, right? So we talked about last quarter. Last quarter when they missed by 20,000 members, 20 for the first time we saw like this huge gap, right? And it brought up all these demand concerns. Last time the street used that justification to sell off the stock post production deliveries. So I do reckon tomorrow is probably going to be a red day. Hope I'm wrong. Some people do disagree with me, but we'll see. I mean, last fiscal year, January or 2023, 2022, the first day was like a 10% up day. So, and we know how that year ended up. So, Martin says, stop the noise. Cars in transit count should be added to delivery numbers. You just can't do that, right? Accounting rules, you can't recognize revenue that hasn't officially been recognized and delivered and money's exchanged and products given, right? So you can't. Uriel says, if they would switch to making cars with no buyers attached, would they say so? I guess the absence of it is the question mark. I'm not sure. Sanju, how's it going? Thanks for being here. Yes. Okay. So let's put it all into perspective as well, right? Martin Viecha tweets 440,000 cars made and 405,000 delivered in Q4. Delivery growth of 40% and production growth of 47% in 2022. All things considered, I'm super proud of the team for this result. A smoother delivery pattern will require more vehicles in transit, which is why production is greater than deliveries. Now, first of all, I gotta say, 100% that Shanghai was closed for how long in 2022, right? The geopolitical turmoil that it was, and somewhat is even, 2022 was not easy to navigate around. Tesla still somehow is able to produce close to 50%. Now, some people are throwing back at this 40% growth and saying, look, well, on the earnings call, you said you're going to be just shy of 50%. And 40% is not just shy of 50%. So let me know what you guys think about that. Let's see here. Let me just go through the rest of the tweets, and then I'll go through all you guys' comments here in a second. Also, big news here. Mark your calendars for Tesla Investors Day on March 1st. Not the same as the annual shareholder meeting. Some of our institutional retail investors will be able to attend in person at Giga Texas. And what's interesting, I wish someone pulled this up here, but basically what they're going to be talking about here is the Generation 3 platform, capital allocation, and new factory expansion. So it seems like we might get insight on, like, it feels like Tesla's about to, when they say Generation 3 platform, it's kind of going to be like the same as the Ultium platform type of marketing where, you know, you can plus or minus use it in future generation cars, semis, or pardon me, not semis, cars, imagine that, Sprinter vans, maybe even, I'm thinking stuff like that is probably what they're going to talk about. So that's really interesting to think about there. Matthias Fons also says Tesla vehicles delivered this decade in the 2020s. I remember 500,000 in 2020. It feels like a long time ago, but remember 2020 was 500,000 for the whole fiscal year, albeit there was COVID. I guess there was COVID this year as well in Shanghai. For 500,000, 936,000 last 2 fiscal years ago. Crazy to say that was 2 fiscal years ago. And last fiscal year, 1.314 million. So CAGR, 62% CAGR over that time period. Gary Black also mentions, and we'll talk about the IRS and the tax credit. I know Farzad's been banging the drum on this, rightfully so. We'll talk about this, I think, on another stream. But just know that the Model Y to qualify, essentially, you have to get the 7-seater option for it to qualify, because the 5-seater option is not considered an SUV. Same with the Mach-E, but the ID4 is. Some say it's due to suspension, off-roading, that sort of thing. I think we'll dive into this into a different video. Let's keep this one about deliveries. Okay, let me read out some comments as well, and let me just keep this up on the screen. Okay, I'm curious to see what you guys think. Jupiter says if Tesla if Tesla crashes tomorrow, as we expect, what is the next resistance line? Well, I think the support line, right, is probably what you mean. But we talked about the 300 week moving average being a good level of support, and indeed it was last week. I think the line in the sand is still this level. I mean, to end the week, that is, we don't want to close below the 300 week, and as it stands, we're about $5 away. So 117.26. If we pull up the dailies, honestly, if someone wants to chime in otherwise, let me know. The downside, I mean, it's hard to say. I think the psychological $100 level is the next level. And I say that because I can throw in the 300 week or the 300 day moving average. That doesn't do anything. The sell off that we've seen in the last little bit really doesn't paint very many other options. We can pull up the monthly, but in fact, we're actually past the monthly as well. It doesn't even pull up the 300 month moving average, which I don't even want to get into. So I think the psychological levels are the ones to look at now on the downside. On the upside, well, if we go green tomorrow, I'd be happy to talk about the upsides as well. But yeah. Let's see here. Andy says tomorrow doesn't matter. Production is up. All those extra Teslas will be in customers' hands in short orders. Look, I think so as well. But I also think there's probably another price reduction coming. I know probably a little bit blasphemous to say. I've been saying it for a couple months, even though that I think in 2023 Tesla will have to drop their prices. Remember, the Inflation Reduction Act, for all intents and purposes, was on in the last 2 weeks. Tesla was giving $7,500 off already. So if you want to talk about demand, I think you can gauge the demand of Teslas in the last couple of weeks, and this is what management will do. Look at how demand was at a run rate in the last couple of weeks and try to project that out into this year. I keep saying next year, into this year as the Inflation Reduction Act comes in. But I still think, for example, the Model 3 long range does not qualify, to my knowledge, at this point, because it's about $2,000 higher than it should be to meet the $55,000 cap. Why not just reduce that by $2,000, get it to qualify for the 7.5, and now to the net consumer, they pay about almost $10,000 less for their Model 3 long range. I think Tesla will be able to pull levers like that. No options activity insights. I reckon Monday morning or tomorrow morning when the market opens, we'll have a better idea there. Let's see here. Revenue from FSD, says John. There's some people saying Tesla will be able to recognize all of their deferred revenue on FSD. I'm not of the camp that's going to happen. I think Tesla beta has to be removed for a lot of the revenue recognition to happen. But I mean, who am I to say? I mean, there's smarter people than I that think that it will. But remember, revenue recognition on FSD, people will tell you that it'll just get backed out anyways. So is it that exciting? Maybe. Another thing to note, if you want to talk about revenue or one-time charges, Tesla might recognize finally its tax deferred credit that it has to lower their tax bill, and that might be a big boost as well to EPS. But again, one-time thing, probably backed out. Let's see here. S-Trade says next big support is at $88. Actually, so Wolfgang says we saw a hit on the stock exchange in Germany, but now it's stable, up 2%. That's actually a great point. I'll pull up on our Discord. Tardy was nicely giving us all a link to look at it, and I'll actually try to pull it up here off of our exchange. So yeah, so the Frankfurt exchange, Tesla's up 2% to 114 euros. To US dollars. It's about 121.63. I think the market's closed. Yes, it is officially closed now, but it closed up 2%. It was up quite a bit. You'll see here in Frankfurt, there was quite the drop right at the production report. It fell from about 119 to about 112, closed up a little bit. Thanks for that. Thanks for that reminder. Massey says 40% year over year is not bad. Why is everyone tripping over this? I don't think, I'm not tripping over it, but remember, valuations, growth, PE, all of this comes with respect to a future of growth. The question is, if Tesla saw just under 50% growth in deliveries, and they weren't able to deliver, not because of a logistical issue, but because of demand concerns, that's the question, right? So yes, I'm careful not to be too myopic about this, but we got to be at least intellectually honest to have a discussion about, okay, is there demand concerns here? What can Tesla do if there is? And how does that look for growth? Now, one thing's for certain, next fiscal year's, or I keep saying next, this fiscal year is not going to be pretty for any automaker. That's just the bottom line. Does Tesla still fare better than other automakers? I reckon so. But it's still going to be ugly, more of an aggregate demand-wise, right? So that's why I like coming on live. You guys, we can have a discussion. We can argue on both sides of the thing, see what we agree, disagree. Like a lot of you guys also think Tesla will go up tomorrow. So I guess we'll see. That's another one. Amaro says raising prices to fight demand beyond higher input costs was a mistake given the auto industry cycle. You should never seek to curb demand. Well, cost was a big one, but also, going into next year, we have to see how 4680s scale. That's one big thing that we have to see, and how they reduce cost, and also gigacastings. Those two things can have a material impact to cost reduction. But as it stands right now, there's no way for us to project that on the bottom line just yet. Jay Lizard, thank you. Happy New Year to you as well. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so Stefan says, a question, is this what Elon said when he meant by epic? So yeah, saying epic quarter, again, is very subjective. There was a theory going around a couple of weeks ago that there's a theory going on a couple of weeks ago. Well, if quarter 4 deliveries were going to miss analyst expectations, there's no way that Elon could have sold. And I just never bought that. In fact, I said it on a couple of live streams. I said, I just don't buy that theory. Take it into consideration. Don't want to be pessimistic, but I just don't buy that they would be able to know what was going to happen in the market, right? So I think that's where we're at right now, where had they not given that discount, we're probably looking sub 400K on deliveries. Now, again, let's try to focus this long term at least. Tesla has levers to pull. They can give FSD for 1 year for free. They can give supercharging to incentivize. Obviously they could lower prices. They could do a multitude of things here to boost up short-term demand. I think the Inflation Reduction Act gives some opportunities of fine-tuning of pricing, like Model 3 long range coming down a little bit, 2,000. The question is, how much does that impact margins? And conversely, how much do the new factories, once they're ramped, help margins with the 4680s and the gigacasting? So that's the question. Like, there's a lot of balancing here to be done. So it's just hard to say it. Martin says, Yash, shouldn't Tesla have corrected guidance? Well, Tesla doesn't officially give guidance, right? I think Martin's, just under 50% was kind of an offhand. Could you call that official guidance? I don't know, to be honest. So Tesla never gives official guidance other than we're growing 50%, in the long run. That's all we care about. So we'll see. But should they have corrected it? I don't think so. Tesla's never really operated that, for better or for worse. For better or for worse. PowerPoint says, look, I'll be buying cheap leaps again tomorrow. Just be careful. I mean, of course, do whatever you feel like. No, not financial advice, but just be careful. It seems like we're still fighting the Fed. And when you're buying options, I mean, long or short, it seems like short's been better. But you're still buying time. And that's the big thing, is we don't really know where the market's going to be for how long because of the Fed. I guess we'll see. Duran says, Wall Street knew the numbers, so they dumped the stock last month. The question is, how did they know? I'm not sure if they knew per se. There's no way they would have known, because what's been happening the last couple of weeks, Tesla's been quite busy. I think it's been a mix of macro and a mix of a big institution or two trying to liquidate Tesla, trying to get out. Maybe it's for Elon purposes, Elon pushing against the establishment. Maybe it's just they don't want to be tied to Tesla stock. And even some people have thrown out theories about short selling. So I guess we'll see. Happy New Year to you guys as well. So we'll see. Look, yeah. So HK says, actually, HK brings up a good comment here, right? It hits Tesla hits record highs every quarter, and stock is crashing more and more. I see stock doesn't follow fundamentals. So this is where valuation theory will come in, right? Because of course Tesla will have to hit records every quarter for them to get to where, you know, their stated goal is 20 million cars by 2030, right? For that to happen, Tesla has to hit records every single quarter. The question we're having is, by how much is the demand or the production, or let's say demand, how much of the delivery growth happening? And do we see a slowing down in that rate? And if so, where does that put future deliveries 5 or 10 years down the line? That's kind of the game that we're all playing, right? Because a record in and of itself is not enough when we're talking about growth stocks, right? You know, but it's just all a question about valuation. And so I guess we're having a question here to say, obviously Tesla has demand levers it can pull. Obviously next year will be ugly auto industry wide. I still think Tesla fares better than other autos. Actually, I saw a Farzad tweet out today that Honda deliveries were down 30%, where Teslas were up 40%. But remember, every company's at a different maturation rate. This is all a question about multiple, in my opinion. Yes, margin as well, if prices come down, for sure. But it's a question about multiple as well, I think. Yes, Q4 was nutty, for sure. So I guess we'll see where everything ends up. And I did have another tweet here. Where is it? I guess we'll find out where everything ends up here. Tesla reports, this is the headline, Tesla from CNBC, Tesla reports 1.31 million deliveries in 2022, growth of 40% over last year. Okay, there we go. So I guess we'll see where we end up. Investor Day is on March 1st, so we'll see. I wanted to just come on quickly, do a quick live stream, see where everyone's at, wish everyone a happy new year, talk a little bit. So I guess we'll see where we're at tomorrow. You know, the question is how much of this gap, of this 30 some odd gap between production and deliveries, have been accounted for and just not delivered, right? Because last quarter, Tesla said all of these have been ordered and just waiting. So this could all be for naught. It's just hard to. It's the second quarter that we're really trying to evaluate the demand lag, right, or the evening out of the demand curve. So it's just hard to evaluate. So I guess we'll see where everything happens. Yeah, Cybertruck probably fall of next year. I've pegged my expectations to middle of next year, so I guess we'll see. Waka says, technically speaking on the charts, Tesla hit the bottom for now. Good to see you, Waka. It's been a while. I guess we'll see. And remember, macro will also dictate a lot what happens. So we'll see. All right, guys, much love. Happy New Year. Wishing you happiness, health, everything tossing your way. God bless you, and we'll talk tomorrow with reaction to what happens and everything that follows. Hit the like, subscribe on your way out, and I appreciate all you guys tuning in on an impromptu live stream on seems like a Sunday, but it's actually a Monday. All right, guys, much love. Take care.